Jacob and the evil blackjack and Esau. The true story of Jacob and Esau. So we have the Tanakh, the Torah, as well as the Talmud and the Hebrew Bible. And we know that the Bible was not written by the hands of the true God, but of the fake man-made God. It was written by the hands of man, the scribbling scribes. So the Bible and the authorized versions of it are not an original story at all, but we find that it's plagiarism from the old world, from the old ancient stories of the old world. And thus, when people read the Bible, they miss its true meaning 100%. So you see, like all stories that are man-made, the Bible has what is known as characters. And characters play in a play which is not real, or in a movie, because they are actors. And we find these characters in all forms of religions. I mean, today we know there was no character known as Zeus, but to the ancients, they actually thought he was real. You see, Zeus was a figure that represented something else. So the figure of Zeus was a symbolic representation. He really didn't hold a lightning bolt. It was a figure, symbolic representation of God's lightning. And I'm sure you've all seen Clash of the Titans, where Zeus, the actor, is holding the little figurines, which is a little doll, which is idol worship, that which represents something else. Just as when the Bible speaks of parables. And thus we have the Bible, or the two bulls, which is the same theme that we'll find in almost all movies we watch. And you see, this is why most movies will have what is known as figurines, or little dolls. And this is exactly why the story of the Bible also has the figurines, which are the actors, the play idols. So you see, this is exactly why they call them biblical characters, and they only have first names. None of the characters of the Bible have last names, because they are fake actors and actresses. So before I tell you the truth about the story, let's first take a look at the story itself.
One day when Jacob had cooked some stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. So Esau said to Jacob, "Please, let me have a swallow of that red stuff there, for I am famished." But Jacob said, "Well, first, sell me your birthright." Esau said, "Behold, I am about to die. So of what use then is the birthright to me?" And Jacob said, "First swear to me." So Esau swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and he drank and he rose and he went on his way. So Esau really despised his birthright. Therefore Esau's name was called Edom, which means red. "Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, then I will be as a deceiver in his sight." Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come close, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob came close to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he said, "Bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that I may bless you."
Now remember that the word bless or blessing means to be sprinkled with little droplets of blood, which is why they do a blessing. They make the sacrifice and then they use the blood to sprinkle it on the person so that they are blessed, which is why we say bless you when a person sneezes. Because when they are sneezing, they are shooting out a bunch of little droplets. So it's exactly like a blessing, which is the bludgeoned blood sprinkles.
But Esau said, Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. Well, kids, Jacob's name means a crook.
And we all know that a crook means a wicked or evil person, one who is a thief and steals, exactly like the stolen crown that Jacob stole from Esau. So the Hebrew word for Jacob is Yaakov, and in Arabic it is Yaqub. The B and the V comes from the Bet and the Vet, which is the letter B. Now, Yaakov or Jacob is Jack in English. Now, don't forget that God changed Jacob's name to Israel. So remember that Yaakov or Jacob or Jack is the one who stole the crown. He is the crook or the thief. This is exactly why today that the word Jack implies a thief. Which is why when somebody steals something from you, we say you got jacked. Which is why when somebody's trying to steal your car, we say you are getting carjacked. Or if they're trying to steal a plane, it's called a hijacking. So we find that Jacob or Yaakov, his name means the heel or the leg puller, or he who struggles with God, the bull god El. Now the Bible actually gives you a clue if you listen to the words when it says that Esau said, Is he not rightly named Jacob?
But Esau said, Is he not rightly named Jacob?
So you see, the truth is that the word Yaakov or Jacob actually reveals the truth in the entire true story or the hidden story behind the fake mask or the book of the cover story. So you see, the very name and the meaning they give you is actually correct, but they're not telling you the correct meaning of the meaning. You see, some people actually take it literally.
So they was fighting all the way from the woman's womb. They were still fighting when they was pulling her out, pulling the babies out of the womb. And Jacob took hold of Esau's heel.
See, if you take that story and literally think that Jacob actually was holding on to the heel of Esau, then the joke is on you. Have you ever heard the expression, "Are you pulling my leg?" What you are implying is, are you pulling my leg, which means are you lying or trying to trick me? Are you pulling a joke on me? So when you get ripped off or jacked, you have been tricked. Now don't forget that in language, the J or the Y can be interchanged. Thus the expression, the yoke is on you. Now the truth is that the yoke, as mentioned in Genesis about Esau, is a yoke or a harness that is made for the ox or the bull. And of course this yoke is used to trick and control the beast. And for those that don't know, El is the Hebrew God of the Bible. And if you haven't seen my series, Bull God of the Bible, I suggest you do. It will give you a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about here. So, at the end of the annual year, or at the end of the cycle, or the recycle, comes the decline of the deceiver, of the devil, of death in December. When things are inverted and turned upside down at the end of the year or the sacrifice before the rebirth. And this time of the year is known as Saturnalia, the time of chaos. Thus the god of chaos, fertility, and the harvest, Saturn, Saturnel. Which is why Saturday is known as the day of chaos. So the old bearded man is old Saturnel, and this is exactly why in December, at the end of the year, the time of chaos, we have the god or the figure of God, which is known as Santa. So this is exactly why you see all the symbolism during Christmas, which represents the characters of the season, which is why Santa and Satan is Saturnel. So now you know why they say Noel, and they have the little characters that are known as elves. The old father of time, the grim reaper, the slayer of time, who owns both time and the houses of the zodiac. Which is why the letter L is the number 12, which represents the 12 houses that are found in God's abode or in his castle. So the 12 houses of God's abode are the 12 months or the 12 moons of the year, which gives us our 12 tribes of Israel. And we all know that the 12 tribes are also known as the 12 tribes of Jacob or Yaakov. And besides the biblical character of Jacob, we also have the biblical character of David, which is why we have the house or the kingdom of David. His people were divided, which is exactly why David or David means to divide. So now you'll understand why we have the Star of David, which is the Star of Divide, representing the red and the blue, the moon and the sun. So you see, this is why the whole story is talking about a people divided, and the division of the big and the small, and the division of the head, etc. And the ancient land of Canaan is the modern day Israel. Which is why today we have the story of the people who are divided. Which is why today we have the story of the ripped off land or the stolen land of Israel. So Israel was stolen or jacked. So what do you think the true story of Jacob and Esau is really about? And if you actually are one of those who believe that it has to do with black or white, let me tell you this, you're on the right trail, but you missed the boat completely.
Genesis chapter 25, verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
His hand took hold of Esau's heel. So they were fighting all the way from the woman's womb. They were still fighting, pulling the babies out of the womb. And Jacob took hold of Esau's heel. Don't forget, the head is the top, that's the head, and the foot is the end. Read.
And his name was called Jacob.
And his name was called Jacob. Now why did Jacob take hold of his brother's heel? That's significant. Go to 2nd Ezra, in the Apocrypha, 6 and 9.
2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 9.
Okay.
For Esau is the end of the world.
Start at the 8th verse.
2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him.
Same thing we're reading in Genesis 25. When Jacob and Esau was born of Isaac, read.
Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau.
Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. What is this signifying? Read the next verse.
Verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world.
So at the end of the world or rulership, or in end times, Esau would be ruling. Esau is the end of the world. So at the end of the world, Esau would have dominion. Now, mind you, the promise that the elder shall serve the younger have not been fulfilled yet. Esau is the end of the world.
So now for the truth that lies behind the fake mask of lies. First of all, there is no end of the world coming. There is not going to be an apocalypse. It is nothing more than the end of a cycle, the end of the year, the annual year, which is why we're talking about an apocalypse, which is nothing more than the Apollo eclipse. You see, again, we're talking about the sun, the Apollo sun god. And you see the eclipse is the moon, or the female. Now, the red and the blue is the Apollo eclipse. And the apocalypse also gives us our rapture. And again, we have Ra, which is the sun god, and the aperture of the sunlight itself. So now you know the truth behind the book of Revelations, which is not about the end of the world, but about the end of time at the end of the season, which is Re, the sun god. Thus we have the reborn again, revolving sun. So you see, the book of Revelations is simply talking about the story or the struggle of the annual year throughout the seasons. It is the age-old struggle between the seasons, or the sea and the sun, which is the water and the fire and the ice, the winter and the summer, from the old to the new, or from the red to the blue, from daylight into darkness, and vice versa. So the goddess of nature, or the mother goddess, is impregnated, the Mother Earth giving birth. And Mother Earth has the two twins, which are the two companions of Mother Nature, the sun and the moon, the daughter and the son, like Apollo the sun god and his sister Diana, or the moon goddess. So you see, it's nothing more than the age-old struggle of the twins of the season, the brother and brother, or the sister versus sister, or the brother versus the sister. It's all the same thing. It represents the twins. So the two struggle and fight to see who is going to rule over the world, and the winter, evil, cold time of death always takes over the fun-loving summertime. So you see, this is why the book of Revelations in the Bible is talking about the death and the destruction and the destroying, because it's talking about the descent of December, the time when death takes over and destroys everything until the sun is reborn again. So you see, the two fight and battle to take supremacy, which is exactly why we have the twin pillars, or the twin towers of male and female. So just like in nature, there can only be one true winner, or one who gets the ownership to rule, who gets to wear the crown. So you see, when Jacob and Esau are struggling and fighting one another, there can only be one true outcome, or one true ruler, and that is the younger Jacob. Like the son takes over the father's position, as Zeus took over Saturn L's position. So the two fight and struggle, but there can only be one outcome, or one ruler, exactly like the twin towers that united into one tower that now rules. The old red, white, and blue, or the old Hegelian dialectic, chaos theory of the problem, reaction, and the solution. And this is why our motto is, out of many, one. So when you hear people talking about them fighting and struggling against one another, or that the races or the ethnic backgrounds of the black and the white race fighting one another, is complete bullshit. So you see, these characters are being applied to a story about nature. It is a natural story that has characters which are fake. They represent the symbolic representation of the bi-cycle of winter and summer, the ones that repeat over and over again, the two struggle, which is why Jacob is holding the heel of Esau to follow him. So this is why the very word Yaakov or Jacob means to track or to follow, he who supplements. It means to replace. So you see, Jacob is the bad one who takes over the daylight, or the cold black one of winter that takes over the summertime. So Jacob is the evil mean one, while Esau is the good one that represents red, thus the Edomite. And the blue represents Jacob or